Hello. Not even going to tell you how many times I've tried to do this. Now I'm recording it on my computer and then I'll upload it to YouTube. Anyway, meditation instruction, Shamatha. So I'm going to talk for a little while, settle us into Shamatha and guide you. And if at any time you need to pause and stay with your experience, please do that. I will preface moments of instruction by saying speaking to give you a second to reach over and hit pause. And then I'll just kind of give a little bit more guidance. So, shamatha literally means peaceful abiding. It is the Buddhist approach to meditation that is, it's very basic and it's challenging because there's really nothing to focus on. And everything that I'm saying is based on my experience. It's not the instruction that I got. I mean, I had to do this for 30 minutes a day during my whole 2-year program, which took 4 years. But the meditation instructors were very reticent to say anything about your experience. They talk about obstacles that come up. It's like being with, being taken into the jungle with a guide who's been there for 500 generations. They know everything that can possibly happen. And it's a little challenging to talk about what meditation actually is or why we do it. I mean, any questions that would come up, like why are we doing this or how, what's good meditation, what's bad meditation, it's like they would always brush that aside because anything you're experiencing is, it's like there's no objective except to let go of objectives. The ego mind has concepts, packages of how to look at things. And meditation is all about taking that packaging away and learning how to simply experience your present moment without the machinations of interpretation. I don't know what Naropa would say about that, but that's been my experience. So what happens when you create this space is that unprocessed things, parts of you that have not had the freedom to speak their truth, repressed material, I mean stuff from this morning, stuff from when you were little, stuff from past lives. The more you set this stage, the more grounded it becomes, the more reliable your internality finds it to be, the more it will show up with stuff to resolve. Like that little fly that just came by. Perfect example. You stop pushing away the fly and you go, come here, what do you have to say? You're not afraid of it. And you begin to recognize internal reactions and let them be without letting them be in the driver's seat. So this is really about becoming the banks of the river instead of just being in the water and flowing with it. Oh, I'm so angry, I'm so sad, and I was having this experience, and maybe it's because, and like, he's just so, and I blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. Mind. It's combined with emotion, but it's like, ugh, is it really real? And if you become the banks of the river, and then you let all that stuff happen, you get to just observe it. And it becomes much less, like serious, important, substantial, authoritative. You begin to have a completely different relationship to your experience. So, let us begin some shamatha with some inquiry. Kind of like going on the heels of what I did on my previous video. So, stop playing with my hair. Okay, take a deep breath. Close your eyes for just a minute. Shamatha is open eye, but this will be closed eye. Sorry about the beeping. I don't know how to stop that. Hit silent. That doesn't turn off my microphone. Okay, so take a deep breath. Close your eyes. And become aware of where your attention goes. Become aware of the external sounds and sensations. There's a truck going by, bird sound, maybe your dryer is running, maybe your dog's claws are clicking on the floor. Become aware of things outside you first with your physical senses. Feel the air temperature. It's all going on without your participation. Isn't that nice? Now, coming into your own experience a little more. Feel your body in space. Notice where your attention goes in your body. Feel and become observant, like the doctor saying, where does it hurt? You begin to observe it as you're describing it. So go ahead and start an internal description in your mind. And try to stay away from good, bad kind of words. Try to be neutral. Like my heart feels like a heavy sponge filled with water. You can stay with this for a while, but I'm going to go on. So hit pause if something really juicy is coming up for you. Okay, so moving on, we're going to bring this to Shamatha meditation. So open your eyes. Notice how the mind immediately wants to start evaluating your experience. It's almost like it comes with the sense of vision. Well, we're going to allow the sense of vision to do its thing, but take the driver's seat and the wheel away from the judging mind. So bring your gaze very gradually from far away to closer in until you're about 6 feet in front of you. Pick a spot and observe your breath. Become aware of the sounds around you again. You will eventually be able to settle into this kind of meditation with your eyes open, which means eventually you can do this anywhere. You don't need to shut anything out. You learn to tune in a different way. So just be aware that you are breathing as you're you're giving your eyes a place to rest. And with coming back to the breath, you're giving your mind something to focus on. Depending on how much material you have going on, this may be more or less difficult. If it's difficult, give your mind a little bit more material to concentrate on. So concentrate on what does the breath feel like as it's coming in as opposed to when it's going out. How do my lungs feel? How does my chest feel? All these things you're becoming aware of. This is good. The quality of your attention. This is good. You're attending, becoming mindful. Come back to the breath. There's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. No judgments need to be made. You are a body breathing in space. You are like a tree. The tree is respirating. It's receiving carbon dioxide and it's breathing out oxygen. It's receiving sunlight and turning it into food. It's not evaluating, thinking, planning, remembering. It is being in the present. I am. You may notice all kinds of thoughts, feelings, filters of interpretation. This is all good to just become aware of this. It's what's called the cocoon, and it has many layers. There may be a pervasive shell of seriousness around you. There may be a big pervasive shell of survival and fear. And we're just becoming kind of subtly aware of that. They're all concepts that we encase ourselves in, and they're not really real. So come back again to the image of a tree. Buddhists also use the mind as an open sky, or I am a mountain. I like tree. Go with whatever. And just be and observe your breath. Thoughts, experiences, feelings, observe them. Not too tight, not too loose. If a feeling happens, maybe we remember an argument with a spouse or a friend. Too tight would be to really go into it and feel whatever there is to feel, and then you start to generate the story and the narrative, and he does this and she does that, and that's too tight. Okay, too loose would be having this experience, whatever, just go away. You're creating compassionate listening space, like a friend who holds space for you in a neutral, non-reactive way, with curiosity and compassion and space. So whatever comes up, observe it. Not too tight, not too loose, and then let it go away. The same damn thing might come up immediately. Not too tight, not too loose. Come back to the breath, perhaps release it on the breath. You are, I am. I am not the play that is happening on the stage. I am not the drama. I am the stage. I am and I'm not, but right now let's identify with I am the banks of the river. I am not the river. A twig of irritation goes by, a big plastic bag of something I forgot to do last month and I still haven't done it. Something stinky like resentment. Whatever you want to imagine floating down your river. Let it be there, but don't ride on it. You might ride on that grocery list and your to-do list for 30 whole minutes and then remember, oh, come back to the breath. It's okay, come back. You're training your mind to come back. An interesting thing to note here is to ask yourself, what is the texture of my attention? Do I feel kind of tasky? Do I feel kind of judgy? Do I feel kind of silly? I'm feeling kind of silly. Just notice the texture of your attention right now. It changes moment to moment, day to day. Just training yourself to become aware. You are identifying with the observer. So the cocoon has many, many, many layers. What happens when there's no cocoon? Well, you're like a tree. You're like the old sage. We have an idea of that kind of neutral presence because we're all capable of it. There is some aspect of us that is always there. We're just learning to identify with it, to find it, to bring it into our experience and to practice. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute. Coming back to the breath. Speaking. So because I've had to practice doing this video over and over and over again, I've gotten myself into a pretty centered space. I could say I've been sort of meditating for about 30 or 40 minutes. Therefore, I just got to an experience that is deeply emotional, but absolutely pure and clear. Chogyam Trungpa would describe this as a gem through which the light can pass. It's perfectly clear. Sometimes we have a color of experience that is more opaque, like plastic, he would describe. And when you get to this kind of clear diamond consciousness, essential things can happen, like the essence of an apple. Philosophically, not just the apple, but the essence of it somehow, the essence of redness, the essence of sweetness. And I just had the essence of love pass through, just like a real butterfly for just a moment. And when it was happening, I got a welling up of tears. Quiet, as the helicopter goes over. There's this interior quiet. Attending, this is good discipline, attending to that. Observing the helicopter, attending to the heart. And right when this happened, this is September when I'm doing this, so the tree dropped one of the little crab apples. Clunk. As if to say, pay attention to this moment. So I just wanted to say sometimes that's what happens too, is you reach a deep essential quality. And I know that as we're in this territory, if you're new to meditation, there is a tendency to ask, is this good or is this bad? If at all possible, try to throw that question out. That's the ego mind. Which experience do I prefer? Becoming a good meditator really is about being open to whatever experience you're having, because you're cultivating the stage, the river banks, the container. We're cultivating a neutral, spacious container into which our experience can come, and a place of quiet from which we can observe our experience with much greater neutrality, much fewer filters, much less cocoon material. And that's all for today. And as a wise Buddhist master once said, something close to this, and in the garden of peaceful abiding, may you be blessed by coconuts of wakefulness. What does that mean? Well, something big can clunk come and hit you on the head. Meaning this isn't always a peaceful process. It's not always sweet. It's not always beautiful because, okay, I'm going to talk for another minute. Sorry. You can just turn this off if you want to. Meditate. But we're like a boat screaming along on the water, leaving a wake and throwing out a bunch of shit out of the boat while we're zooming along, living our lives, being busy, judging, evaluating, thinking. And when the boat stops, what happens? Woo! The wake comes, kind of, unsettles the boat, and then all of a sudden all this trash kind of starts gathering around that you've been throwing out. You know what I'm saying? Like all this unprocessed material. And my very first experiences of meditating, when I was at Naropa, every once in a while I was like, I don't want to meditate because then I'll be in a bad mood. And it was kind of true for a while because I was allowing space for all of that stuff that I had been pushing away to come and present itself. So there may be a backlog, but that's okay. Practicing for just a few minutes every day, what you're doing is you are informing and gaining the trust of your deeper interiority to come into this space and speak to you. And as you get more and more skillfulness to allow the flow, to feel it, to experience the content of what's in there without being hijacked by it. I'm on my cushion. That's part of the reason we sit up and keep our eyes open, because it's like that's the saddle. I'm here, I'm listening, I'm aware. That's the discipline part into which all this experience comes. Of course it does. Because you have a lot of shit come into your experience while you're meditating means you're an effective meditator, if anything. The skillfulness comes in allowing it to come without hijacking you too much. And you will get hijacked. Even by life, your child starts crying or someone comes to the door, there's a phone call you absolutely have to take, or you just remembered something that if you don't put it in your calendar, you're going to forget it. And that happens to me all the time when I sit down to meditate. And it's because I'm slowing down enough to allow my to-do list. Because I tend to run away from my to-do list. That's one of my personality things. So I take that moment and I actually go into my phone. I'm like, I put down all, I take care of business, and then I can settle in and really get to the juicy stuff. And it may or may not be juicy. I don't want to put out little, yes, these things may occur in your experience, but I don't want you to prefer one thing over the other. Having our experience, period, is valuable, and that there's a nurturing, compassionate, supportive, essential quality of your being that begins to present itself. I'm going to be a sturdy trampoline for you to bounce around on. And you begin to really build up that muscle and feel it the more you come back to this. So even if you can just do this for 5 minutes, I really encourage you to just have at it for 5 minutes. In fact, set a timer so that inner child part of you that's like, I can't do this, and then the timer goes off and you're like, oh, I want to sit here for another few minutes. You'll do that. But if you're just like, oh, I can't do this, but just, okay, 5 more minutes, if it just about kills you, sometimes that timer is really helpful to create, boundaries and a container. So, that's it for today. Thank you for sharing space with me. I love you.